Hello everyone and welcome back to another video inside of Minecraft. Today we're doing another behind the scenes. So I did one, this one's going to be a little bit different from the ones that I've done previously. So I did one a little while ago for that game there, the one with the goat horns, and then I did another one for that game there, which I can't even remember the name of, but this is the one with the chorus fruit, where basically you got to try and land on platforms. What's it called? It's called Pop. That's what it's called. And we're doing a third one. So with those two, I kind of knew what game I wanted to do before I started, and then it was literally just making sure it was all like it could actually be possible. So it was very simple. With this one, I literally have no idea what the game's going to be. Well, I know kind of what I want to do for the game. So basically, I've got a rather ridiculous pair of games in my world. So I've got a game called Flip Flop. I've got a number 1 and a number 2 Flip Flop. Flip Flop 1 I designed with EJ, and it was about like flinging fish into like a hole, and then whoever had like the most nuggets at the end won. Which I thought was an alright game. It was a bit of a pain to set up, but it worked okay. And then the other one involved frogs. I built a number 2 version, which I did by myself, which involved frogs eating magma cubes to get frog lights, and whoever had the most colour of their frog light won, which I personally thought was an improvement of Flip Flop 1. But yeah, I guess that's up for depending on which one you prefer. But I've always said, ever since I built Flip Flop 2, that I've wanted to do a third instalment, and I've never done it. And I think the reason why is because I didn't know what game I wanted to do, and I've tried designing it so many times. Like, let me try and see if I can find it. It's not this. It does look a bit like that. It was built out of bamboo. Is it over here? I'm being careful not to show off any spoilers. Then again, this whole video is a spoiler, I guess. But somewhere around here, I think is the game around here. So basically, I did a version with rafts where you had to try and like fling boats over to like your side to stack them up, and then once they got to the height you're on, you could walk on them to pull a lever to light a light to win. Okay, I can't find it anywhere. This was the one that I did for a different game. I don't know where it is, but basically that was the other thing. Is it over here somewhere? I think it's past this game, the boat, whatever it is. It's past here. Oh no, there's spoilers here. I've got to be so careful. So it looks like I'm not going to be able to find it. But basically, I did some tests somewhere for that. But it didn't really work out, and it was a bit awkward, and sometimes the boats would slide off and stuff. So it wasn't the best idea. So I think I'm finally ready to start doing the third instalment. And a few videos ago, I think it is actually one of the most recent videos that I uploaded of my world, there was a moment where I think Bloodstorm, it was the archaeology game, the one with the pits, where basically Bloodstorm was flinging me with a fishing rod to try and get me into the hole, which was in the middle of the game. And I joked at the time and basically said that could be Flip Flop 3. And then there was another moment in a video coming up where EJ was doing the same with a fishing rod. And I also joked, like he was trying to fling me up, and I also joked that it was about, like, that was a Flip Flop 3 as well. So it looks like Flip Flop 3 at the moment is going to be about flinging people, but whether that's what it actually ends up being or not, I don't know. The thing is me and EJ did a game a year ago about, like, flinging goats into, like, a hole, and I think both of us just forgot about that game, to be honest. But it was a really good game. It looked really cool, I remember. So I don't really want to do that. So I'm a little bit stumped as to what I want to do. I've never been this stumped before, but I really want to do a third instalment and finally finish off the flip-flopping trilogy. But I want to make sure that this one's the best one. I want this one to be the better of the three, and I want it to be fun, but I also want it to be different enough from number one and number two. The only thing I know about it is that I want it to use fishing rods and flinging something, and that's all I know. Apart from that, I'm literally going in completely blind without any ideas at the moment. So this is going to be a very different behind the scenes to kind of what you've seen before. Somewhere here I'm going to do some little tests, which I'm going to do in a second. So I'm going to do some tests, as I've just said, and I will come back in once I've had some ideas. All I know is that it's going to involve fishing rods, and that's all I know. Like, to make it fit with number one and number two, it does kind of have to be involving fishing rods. So I'm going to do some tests, and I'll be back when I've tested. Okay, so I've done some tests, and this is what I've come up with so far. I built a thing, so... I spent ages on this, and it's not even working. So basically, I had the idea of using foxes that would jump up. So basically, if I had a bunch of chickens, let's go and grab a fishing rod. So say if I had a chicken on a platform, the foxes would jump up on the platform, and I would have to fling the fox to try and get into the hole, which is why there's a fox spawner. The problem is the foxes just never jumped up, or if they tried to, they'd just bash and they wouldn't actually land on the platform, which was the problem. And it's a shame, because I'd love to do a game with foxes, and I've tried before doing a game with foxes and they just don't work. Oh look, they're shaking it up. Are they going to try and jump? See, this is what happens. See, sometimes they do it, and sometimes they just randomly stop, and it all depends on whether they can see the chicken or not, and if there's a gap. They're just not very reliable in order to do like a proper mini game out of, I'm afraid. Like, this is just too unreliable. I did try it with goats as well, but as I said before, we did do a game with goats, and it's a shame. I wonder if EJ's still got like the plan of that game, because we did it in his world, so I wonder if he still has, because I would still probably like to build that game as an unofficial like sequel to this, maybe. But yeah, this just isn't a good idea, so I'm just going to go and build a big red cross around all of this, just to show that this idea is not a good one. So don't even bother like trying to take this idea and make it your own. It's just not a good idea. Big regrets, no, not having it. So I don't know what I'm going to do. See, I'm really like struggling, because I'm trying to think like, what could I do to improve the game? And I'm also trying to think like, what could I do that's different from number one and number two? Like, you'd think like having two games already would be really easy. I wonder if like, if I built a platform here and say a platform here, if I was to do like a game about you trying to fling people off of a platform, would that work? Like, if I had this, the only thing is I know that there are mini games already like this, and I can't even reach anyway from here, but I do think that there's already like Stampy's got like a flop game, doesn't he, about flinging people off with fishing rods and stuff. So I don't think I'd want to do that. It just seems a bit boring and a bit unoriginal. It could be a case of like, because this is the way of how Flip-Flop 1 and 2 look. So this is a mini example. They kind of make like a bit of a cross shape, where they go a little bit like this, and then basically they end up like linking up. Also, another thing I haven't figured out is how many players this game's going to be, because in Flip-Flop 1 it was a 4-player game, but Flip-Flop 2, because there was only 3 frog types, it ended up being a 3-player game, and I would preferably like this to be a 4-player game, just because we always get 4 people on, and it's always a bit awkward when someone has to sit out. So I would like to try and make it a 4-player game, but I have no idea what I'm doing. But I like this as a shape, so that I'm going to try and keep this shape. And then here could be like the holes where something could jump out of, if I am still doing the idea of them jumping out. Like that. And then there could even be like, so here would be the tower where you try and like fling them out. I don't know what I'm going to do. I literally have no ideas, and yeah, it's always a bit awkward. So here would be like where the pits would go. I don't know if we're going to end up with pits in this one. I mean, there probably will be pits, just because number 1 and number 2 have pits. So, you know, like, I'm really trying to make this game different from Flip-Flop 1 and Flip-Flop 2. But of course I can't, sorry sheep, but of course I can't make it too different. Okay, so I built a thing. And it's a bit of a ridiculous thing. So going back to the to the little thing I did over here, I really went back to the idea of flinging people. And I'm using armour stands for now because, of course, I don't have someone else in. I don't want to do armour stands because I've actually got a game about flinging armour stands, so I don't really want to do that. But I had the idea of, say if there was like a slime block underneath these holes and it was a person on top, you would have to stand on the slime block to basically try and launch yourself up into the air to do something without getting flung by the person at the top. So you'd have to like pick whichever hole you think the person isn't going to be looking at to then try and like launch up into the air to press something or do something to gain points. But if you get flung, you're then out of the game. So say if I was up here and the armour stand got launched, I would have to try and hook onto the armour stand, which would be a person, to try and fling it, but that person who was launching would be trying to do something at the same time. I'm thinking it may be buttons on the roof, just because then I can have different coloured points for like how many points they can get, and maybe the closer ones to the flingers could be like more points, just because it's more risky or something. So there's a bunch of different things I can do. Let me go and grab, not a bucket, what am I doing? Let's go and grab like a mob head, just so I can kind of demonstrate that this is a person. So imagine this is a player, the player would be down here, so that's kind of the idea I've got, and so far this is the best idea I've got. I do like the idea of you getting launched and pressing something. So let's say if there was a button, say here, you would have to like launch up into the air to press that button, which maybe could give a point to you, and then it's basically like whoever's got the most amount of points at the end of the game wins. That could be a way I could do the game. The only thing is Flip-Flop 1 and 2 were time trial games, and if I'm flinging like this, trying to get people, it's not the same game, is it? It's an almost different game, and I don't know if I want to make Flip-Flop 3 that different to number 1 and number 2. I mean, this still could have a time trial, you know what I mean? There still could be like a 3-minute timer or something, like I could still incorporate that. I just don't know how different I want it to be. I do know something though, I know I'm going to be building out of concrete, because Flip-Flop number 1 and number 2 both are made out of concrete, so I know for certain I'm going to be building out of concrete just to make them match. So this is pretty much what the plan is that I've got at the moment. I do like this button idea. That might stay, it might not. It will depend how like complicated I make things by accident. Also, I don't know how many of these buttons I'm going to have. Oh, I did not mean to click on that. But let's say there was like, this was the orange one, and this one was, say, worth 3 points, and then let's say there was a green one that was worth, say, 2 points, and then, as I said, maybe the closer ones could be worth higher points because it's more risky, because it's easier for you to get flung if you're closer. So there is definitely an idea here. I just don't know what the idea is yet, and I'm still very far away from coming up with an idea. Okay, so things have progressed a little bit since the last clip. Basically, I have decided to expand on the idea of flicking players in the air and then touching buttons. So this is kind of what I've come up with, and I quite like this arena. You can see I've done all of these holes here. These would be where you'd launch up. The buttons on the roof are like this. Which I think looks pretty nice. So you'd be up here trying to like fling the person, and then like they would be like down here trying to get launched. They could also like move around freely down here. I don't know if I'm going to do corridors or anything. You can see I've done different colours. So orange ones would be worth like 2 points, green ones 3, and the blue one would be worth 3 because it's in the middle. I like this idea. I think that there is something here. So at the moment, it's still a very early idea, you know, like I'm not ready to start deciding what I want this thing to look like, but I still like this idea. So imagine you've got like this here, and, oh, okay, I should probably add a delay to that because I didn't have enough time to turn my head to look up. So let's just go and add like a little delay. But say like, if I wanted to like try and get more points, if I was the person, because the thing is you can't see like where the players with the fishing rods are looking. So say if like I was down here, I could risk pressing this to launch to press this one, but of course if they see me they can try and launch me. But if I want to like try and risk going for the higher ones, I can try doing that as well. So there is definitely a strategy here. And then I think the rule is if you get flung and you don't fall back down the hole, you are out. I could even have like a third tower, because as I said, like we tend to have 4 people, and Flip Flop was a 4-player game originally, so I would like it to be 4 people if possible. But I think this looks okay. And then there is like these holes here. It's not a complete like symmetrical thing, this, just because I was just briefly mapping this out, but I do quite like this. I don't know if you're going to be able to see like all of this area, like if this arena's too big. I could make it a circle, because Flip Flop 1 and 2, the inside arena was both a circle, so I might do it as a circle just to make it match that. But I think this looks pretty nice. Of course, I'm not building out a brick, don't worry about that. I just kind of just shoved the brick down for now. But I do like that as a general concept. So I've still got a lot to work out. I still need to work out the arena size, the rules, how many players this is going to be, and then ultimately the materials. Like, is this going to be too easy? Like, oh, I can reach that one actually. But is this going to be too easy for me to be able to do that? I also need to make sure that if you're in a room, you can't accidentally press the buttons as well when you're trying to fling your fishing rod. So there's a whole load of things I need to work out, and I'll be back in a sec.